8-year-old through Children International. In the spirit of the season, it's the least I could do to help make a young child's life just a little bit healthier and happier. As a child, I was always well provided for, and it puts a smile on my face and a joy to my heart to make a child's life better for a mere $18 a month. Thank you. Susan, thank you. If you are interested in helping a child through the holiday season at $18 a month, just go to the coasttocoastam.com website. You can read a letter there that we posted, but also on the left-hand side, there's a yellow flashing banner. Click that. That'll take you right to their website, and you can sponsor a child just in time for the Christmas season. Back in a moment. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. Christopher Knight, Alan Butler, our guest. Their book, their work called Who Built the Moon. They have two respective websites. They're linked up at coasttocoastam.com right now. Alan, Christopher, when do you believe the moon was manufactured? If our solar system is 4.56 billion years old and Earth is right around 4.5 billion years old, when do you think the moon was formed?
Well, we think the moon came into existence was actually created probably very shortly after the Earth first coalesced, so sometime very early in the solar system's history. There's absolutely no doubt about that because of the chemical composition of the moon and because of its oxygen isotope fingerprint. It was created shortly after the Earth coalesced.
Isn't it possible, though, just possible, that if it was made, manufactured, that it could have been maybe a mere 100 million years ago? Possible?
Impossible.
Impossible.
Impossible. All of science has got it so wrong. Everything we know about dating techniques would have to be wrong for that to happen. When the first rock was brought back from the moon, from the Apollo missions, it was found to be this random rock picked up was the same age as the oldest known rock on Earth. There is no doubt it is very ancient, and there are some strange claims from people that say the moon came into existence within human memory and so forth. It didn't. It was created way back 4.5 billion years ago as an incubator to create life on Earth, because without that moon being exactly where it was then and where it is now and doing exactly what it's done, there would be no higher life on Earth at all, probably no life at all, not even an amoeba. So it was created as an incubator to create life on Earth, and if it hadn't been there, we wouldn't be here either.
Well, that's true. How thick do you think the moon is?
Thick.
50 kilometers thick.
It's very sponge-like. It's not
It varies.
It goes all the way through, possibly with a hollow center or an extremely light center, but it has no heavy metals in it whatsoever. That's how it's known that it's taken from the surface of the Earth, where there are very few heavy materials because they've sunk to the center of the Earth. So it's this extreme, for its given size, it's extremely light.
It's almost like a shield, isn't it? In some form and fashion.
Titanium, 12%,
It
super
doesn't provide
light.
any protection to the Earth in terms of incoming objects, for instance. It's its gravitational effect on the Earth that is extremely important and isn't fully understood. I mean, the way we came into studying the moon was from our own interest in ancient systems of measuring based on the pendulum. And it's known, for instance, when there is when the sun's light is blocked out by the moon passing in front of it, because the moon is 1/400th the size of the sun, but it's exactly 1/400th of the distance between the two. So what we get, them aligned, pendulums go crazy. And no one understands that. So there's something happening between the Earth, the sun, and the moon that is not understood, that is extremely significant, and appears to affect animals and certainly affects pendulums. So there are elements clearly we do not understand yet, but what we do understand is that no moon, no humans.
There's no question that during the full moon, and I've talked to a number of people who work in the emergency medical field and police officers.
Yeah,
During the
fake
full moon,
brain
people
waves.
act weird, strange,
Yeah.
by and large. They have that the incidence of crime goes up, shootings. It's very, very strange. Why is that? There's got to be some connection here with the moon, with the full moon.
That's
Yeah,
totally
they
not
had two
entirely
electromagnetic
surprising. The
antennas
human brain is
sending
made
waves.
up of a very, very large percentage of water. We only have to observe the ocean every time the moon passes overhead and watch the way the tides happen on the Earth to understand that it has a tremendous gravitational effect. Now, it's quite likely that at full moon, when the moon is right overhead, this effect is greater and has a biochemical effect on the brains of humans and animals. A lot of studies have shown that you cannot actually measure this in any calculable sense, although my experience tells me that you're right and that there is an effect caused by the full moon. But it's almost certainly quite a normal effect because it's distorting brain matter and other biochemical matter.
It does. You know, if it pulls tides, if it creates tides, why wouldn't it do the same on a smaller scale with people's circulation and everything else that's in their brain?
Exactly.
We know that I mean, you can actually measure the tides, the moon's tides, in a cup of tea. That being the case, and bearing in mind that we're over 80% water, it would be very strange if it didn't have a bearing on us.
I agree.
We know that it does. I mean, experimentation has been done on shellfish, for instance, where they've been moved inland in the US and put in completely sealed tanks, and they respond to phases of the moon when they've got no clues from their environment. So there is something directly coming from the moon that they are picking up, rather than from the actual tidal movement of the sea or anything else. Whilst we don't fully understand it, there is little doubt that the moon does affect us. And of course, as you said, there are quite a number of studies that have been carried out. Some have been inconclusive, but others have shown that violence and general aggression can increase during full moons. There may not be a direct linkage, but there is certainly
It is related
a
directly.
statistical comparison that says something strange happens when there is a full moon.
The fact that the moon is so immense, as opposed to a
The
much smaller
reptilian
object,
feed off of
which,
that
if
energy
it were
that
smaller,
we secrete.
it might be easier to
when
accept this theory.
angry
of
or
yours.
in
But the fact
fear.
that it is larger, should that be a reason why people would say this is impossible?
That's the reason why it has to be so, because the moon should not be as it is. If it wasn't, I mean, we started out not by having strange ideas about the moon. We started out with the mathematics of the moon because that's the direction we came from measuring systems. And the moon is built using two systems of measurement: the metric system,
Look at this tower right here.
the ancient
Centennial.
megalithic yard. But principally, it's if you took an automobile apart in 1,000 years' time, you'll be able to deduce that it was
It's a
built
glass
to the
dome.
metric system because every part is
Right
engineered
here.
to it. So you'd soon deduce the
This
meters,
is
millimeters.
structures.
And the moon is the same. We can deduce exactly the blueprint of how it was built. And there is no doubt about it. All the numbers are very clear. This was built to a mathematical blueprint using the metric
Exactly.
system.
The specifications are important in this particular case, aren't they?
Absolutely central. I mean, we wouldn't have believed a few years ago that we would have written a book with a title "Who Built the Moon." You know, it sounds ridiculous, but people will decide what they want to believe or not want to believe on past prejudices. If you actually look at facts, we've had to come kicking and screaming to accept that the moon cannot be natural, and that in fact whoever built it has deliberately left the message to say, "Look what I've done." When you look at the evidence, and particularly all of the numbers involved, not just with its size, but with its movements, its spin, its orbit, its position in space, its relative mass, its density, its size, all of it is done to this, like it's built like a Swiss clock, and no one can argue. The facts of the numbers cannot be debated. They are known, but no one's looked at them as we're looking at them until now. And when you line them all up, you're very unscientific if you say, "Oh, that's a coincidence, and that's a coincidence, and that's a coincidence." It cannot be so. You get to a point where you say, "Someone built it."
Too
or
many
something built it.
coincidences.
The moon has been infinite.
One,
All you have to do
twice,
is look at it through a
maybe,
telescope.
but
You can see
3,
the
4,
craters in the
10,
bombardment
50,
on
100
portions
times.
of it.
No. That's the
Why
rule,
didn't these
not the
objects
norm,
that struck the
not
moon
the
simply go right
section.
through them?
Well, the moon is quite solid. It may be very light in terms of its geological composition, but it's also quite dense. So it's quite obvious that anything that hits it is going to make a crater. It makes very strange craters. I mean, for example, we have very little real idea as to the volcanicity of the moon, as to whether the moon ever had a volcanic component. Some people say that the floors of those areas that we call the mares, if you like, or the seas of the moon, may well be the residue of lava that's flowed out from lower down when the moon was molten. We think that's probably less than likely. But material would not go straight through the moon because although it's very light in weight, it's also very dense. In fact, it's the best possible kind of material to absorb impacts, which is probably why whoever made the moon
Armor
decided upon
plated,
using this
50
material from the Earth.
miles
It's not as
thick,
brittle as
titanium
metal-bearing soils would and rocks would
armor
be. So it's ideal for
band
purpose.
right
And that's
there.
why it rings like a bell when it's struck.
When it was manufactured, was it manufactured
Older
with
than Earth.
machinery? Or, I mean, there must have been something that they did to pull the material from the surface of the Earth.
Nah,
And then
that
created
didn't come
for the
from
moon.
here,
How did they
pal.
do?
You don't know
If you
shit.
take a series of very small black holes. Now, black holes are a strange phenomena. They're very small, but have tremendous gravitational pull. Now, what we're suggesting is a possibility, and bearing in mind the technology used to make the moon is probably slightly beyond us at this particular point in time.
I understand.
And you place these black holes in an orbit around an infant planet like the Earth, bearing in mind that the Earth is also in a fairly fluid state at that point in time, then the black holes will be sufficiently strong that they will literally overcome the gravity
It's
of the
like
Earth
reptilian
itself
phase.
and draw a stream of material into space
A
across the
sculpture.
whole of the Earth, most likely. Now, when that material
Now,
achieves its orbit,
eyes,
when it's far enough away from the Earth
nose,
that the Earth cannot influence it,
with a
then those black
smaller
holes are
face.
turned down or off. And that material, by itself, given time,
Buildings.
because of the specific laws of
Hinges.
physics, will come together to form the moon. So you don't need machinery in the sense of diggers or people with shovels or anything like that. Once you've drawn the material off the Earth, it will coalesce eventually.
And it was done with then knowledge far greater than we have right now.
No
and
shit.
as you say,
Oh
though,
my
we're getting to
God.
a point where we're beginning to understand black holes,
Really?
maybe even how to create
To
some of them.
build the moon.
But this is technology that is 4 billion years old. So that means whoever did this, and we'll talk a little bit about that next hour, had a purpose, came here for this purpose, or did whatever they had to do technically in order to get it done. But they knew that in order for life then, you're saying, to sustain itself, to create itself on this planet, we needed to have a companion. Is that true?
That's true. And whoever did it left the message to say they'd done it.
Was it God?
That's one candidate for sure.
Nah.
When you're at a conference or when you speak
Nah,
about this
that's-
theory, I'm curious, what kind of reaction do you get?
It's really interesting.
This whole solar system is artificially made by a reptilian or several reptilian races, because everything that I have found for 9 years solid point to that direction. All I find is dinosaur heads, reptile sculptures. Everything is reptilian related thing. Nothing is any other candidate. No insect, no nothing. All reptilian. And you can see the holographic images even in the galaxies. These people can build entire solar system and manage the entire galaxy too, as Dr. Berggruen stated in Ring Makers of Saturn, by using electromagnetic energy. You can manipulate everything, including time and space. You can warp, Once you control that, the